So here in Hawaii, we have so many, hey, how's it? Hey, can you order 3-plate lunch with the kind on top? Yeah, and you can put the mac salad on the side. Yeah, cause last time, the burger wouldn't get all wet. Yeah, you know what, my mother, bruh, she wouldn't get nuts, cuz. Okay then, thanks, yeah? Shoots, okay, bye. What? You understood that?
Hello from Hawaii.
So I wanna talk about Hawaiian Pidgin. Pidgin English, Hawaiian Creole, whatever you want to call it. Pidgin's a very special language here in Hawaii. It's dated back to the plantation days. We hear people talk Pidgin, speak Pidgin, and we all get a good laugh and a little smile on the inside. But does Pidgin make you sound stupid? That's what I want to talk about in this video. I want to highlight some of the perceived negatives of speaking Pidgin, some of the benefits of it, and my own personal views on Pidgin as spoken today. And at the end, I want to talk about 5 Pidgin phrases that I just can't seem to shake, even after spending almost 10 years on the mainland. The local boy, it just comes out. All right, so let's start with some of the negatives. So when it comes to Pidgin, I do think that there's this perceived notion that if you do speak Pidgin, you're somewhat less educated, or that you're maybe not as intelligent. And this is definitely a social thing that we've had here in Hawaii for a long time. There's this great paper from the University of Hawaii that talks about the history of Pidgin and just that perceived notion and how we struggled with this bias against Pidgin, especially when it comes to the education system. I know that's gone back to at least when my dad grew up back in the 1950s and 60s. My dad tells this story about when he first went to college at Hilo. He was a pretty good student in high school, so it's not like he was a slacker, but he told me that when he was getting into college, they had him and his friends go into this room and they would speak to faculty. He didn't know what they were asking him, so he would just talk and speak Pidgin. And at the time, he didn't realize that they were actually testing his speech. And so based on that, because he didn't know that, he just let loose and spoke Pidgin. He had to take a year of remedial speech to correct his Pidgin, even though at the time it wasn't really that bad. And so when you think about it, even back then, there's this sort of bias to un-Pidginize kids so that they speak proper English. And I understand the heart of that from an education standpoint, having taught at a university. You often write the way that you speak, and so if you're speaking with a Pidgin accent or you speak Pidgin, it's assumed that you'll probably write that way. And grammatically, that's gonna be horrible to have to decipher as an instructor, as a teacher. And if that's the way that you write all of the time, it can become a problem. Now, notwithstanding, of course, if you write your own Pidgin book or you do it for artistic purposes, and that's a little bit different. But when you're writing academically or just normal everyday life, it is important to write well, to speak well, so that people can understand you. And so in that sense, I understand that if someone is so entrenched in Pidgin and that's all that they know, it could become a problem. And I do know that there are some Hawaii people who have a hard time when they go away to the mainland and they speak Pidgin. They not only have the local accent, but people can't understand what they're saying. I know that you're probably hearing me now and maybe you're thinking, oh wow, he doesn't speak Pidgin at all. It's not true. I grew up Kaneohe side, so I got some Pidgin in me, and it comes out every so often in this YouTube channel. But I remember quickly realizing that when I went to Colorado, I couldn't talk like that. I couldn't speak like that because nobody would understand me, and they would think that I'm dumb or that I have some kind of speech problem. And so I had to change the way that I talk to people, and that's the way that I talk now. But I've also heard the experience of some friends who they can't escape that Pidgin. That's just what they grew up with. And so when they went to the mainland, yeah, they felt like people ignored them, that they treated them like they were second class or they were dumb. And when I hear their stories about that, about how they were treated, you can tell there's some like held up animosity there. And not to make light of their situation, because I'm sure it was horrible, but I know that it probably contributed to them not liking the mainland and wanting to come back home. And it's sad because that's just a part of who they were. But at the same time, when you're operating in basically a new country, I mean, let's face it, Hawaii and the mainland could be practically different countries, culturally at least, that there is some adjustment that needs to be made, or else expect some resistance. So now let's talk about some of the benefits of Pidgin. And the University of Hawaii paper did point out some of the benefits, and I would like to echo some of those thoughts because I do believe that there are benefits to Pidgin despite what your English teacher may say. The first benefit of speaking Pidgin is fitting in. You know, Hawaii is so diverse and there's so many different ethnic groups here that oftentimes it's hard to find a common thread other than the fact that we all live on islands in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. But Pidgin language seems to break those ethnic boundaries because it often includes words and phrases found in a lot of different languages. It's kind of fun to think about. It's like a plate lunch, right? You get a little bit of Japanese food and some Hawaiian food and some Chinese food and maybe some mainland chicken on there. If you want to go crazy, you put some kimchi and maybe some fried lumpia. It makes it like an interesting meal, and I think that's what Pidgin has done. It kind of combines a lot of phrases, and that just serves to bring us closer together because no one person, no one ethnic group can claim Pidgin as their own. And speaking of bringing us together, have you ever noticed that on the neighbor islands, man, the Pidgin is thick. Some of those guys are just like super like into Pidgin, and I can't even understand them. I'm like, what did you say? And I'm sorry, Big Island, but it's shave ice, not ice shave. Another benefit to speaking Pidgin is that I believe it's a sign of being local. Now, I made a video about what it means to be a local here in Hawaii, and at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because I think we're all here in Hawaii and you should just treat everyone with respect, no matter where they are from, what high school they graduated from, it doesn't really matter. But if we do want to start combing more finely some of the social intricacies of the culture here in Hawaii and just everyday life, I think if you can speak Pidgin or definitely understand it, you can consider yourself a local. And it's hard to fake. You know, some people try, they try and they just can't get it, and that's okay. There's nothing worse than someone trying to speak Pidgin and it's just they're forcing it too much, you know? In a way, I'm glad that I grew up in Hawaii and I don't have to fake it because I can just speak it and it just sounds natural. It doesn't sound forced. Because I found that people who try to fake it, it sounds almost offensive. And there's conversations that I have with my wife about that where she tries to speak Pidgin sometimes, more with the sarcastic and ironic slant. But she tries, and being from Japan, she can't get it. But that's okay. I don't really hold it against her. But I think if you try too much, it just comes across as, I don't know, it just sounds horrible. So if can, if no can, no can. And the third benefit, I think, to speaking Pidgin is when you go to the mainland and you meet someone from Hawaii and you guys start talking to each other, man, the Pidgin comes out. I noticed that when I was in Colorado or when I went to California or Oregon and I met someone from Hawaii, boy, just give me like 10 seconds and I know you're from Hawaii. Whew. We start talking Pidgin, we start busting out all the bras and cuz, and you know, it's like the whole thing, you know, with the shakas and everything. And you just get really excited and comfortable. And I know that when you're away on the mainland, you know, you try to find any connection you can to Hawaii. So when you're speaking with someone who speaks Pidgin and you talk story, boy, it's so satisfying. Now, obviously here in Hawaii, you can speak Pidgin anytime that you want, but when you don't have it and you don't have access to that and everybody's speaking perfect English or a different language, when it comes to actually being able to connect with someone in Pidgin on the mainland because it's so rare, boy, it's so satisfying. You know, it really brings you and that person you're talking with together faster and closer, and boy, it just feels like a nice breeze from the ocean, you know, it's just, whew, it just hits you and man, it feels good. All right, so now I want to share my personal opinion on Pidgin. Does it make you sound stupid? Coming from an academic standpoint, educator standpoint, English major standpoint, that I think Pidgin is okay to speak. I don't think it makes you sound less intelligent, but I do think that it's important that if you do speak Pidgin, you're able to turn it on and off. And I think a lot of people, especially those who spent time away on the mainland, are able to do that. Because you do need to communicate effectively, especially once you enter the workplace. Certain workplaces, in fact, I'd probably say most workplaces, you do need to be able to communicate. And if you're sending emails in Pidgin, or you don't know how to spell certain things, or when you're on the phone and people can't understand you, that's just not communicating effectively. It has nothing to really do with Pidgin and whether it's a lesser language. It's more about, can you communicate your thoughts or ideas to another person, and maybe they can understand Pidgin, and in that sense, that makes sense to go ahead and be able to do that. But if you can't do that, then something needs to change. And another side note on speaking Pidgin, I noticed that I speak Pidgin primarily with certain people only. And I'm not sure why that is. It's kind of an unconscious thing where it just comes out with certain people, particularly my cousin who is from Kauai. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe it's just more relaxed and he speaks Pidgin, so it just feels weird if I don't. But I do notice that the Pidgin does come out a lot more with certain people. And now to close, I want to talk about the 5 Pidgin phrases that, man, I can't let go of those. It's not to be embarrassed or ashamed like I should be letting go of those, but I do tend to notice that when I am speaking proper English, even in the workplace, these phrases, they creep in a lot. Phrase number 1, used to. My coworker, who also speaks Pidgin, local boy, he called me out on it one time. He's like, you say used to a lot. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Used to? Yeah, that's just what you say. Like, I'm just used to the cold, or I'm just used to the high cost of living in Hawaii. And it should be used to. But we somehow found used to, a double two, as just common language here. And I noticed my brother actually uses that, who doesn't speak Pidgin all that much. He uses used to a lot. And maybe that's something that we just said a lot in our family. Second phrase, shoots. You gotta say it like that, like the shoots, like real down low. So shoots, if you're not aware, is just like, okay, absolutely, yes. Like, sounds good, but shoots, oh boy, I say that a lot. And that's okay. And I don't know the origins of what that's supposed to mean and where that's coming from, but I just find that whenever I say shoots, it's always at that low shoots, tone. And the next word is try. Now, you may be thinking, why is try a Pidgin phrase? This is one that I'm particularly trying to improve on myself, because personally, to me, it's okay, but it's not really that polite. So for example, try pass me the remote. So try pass me the remote. So please pass me the remote. But when you say try, you're kind of like telling the person to do it, but in a nicer way. But like try do that for me. Not please pass me that, or please do that. So I'm trying to work on that. But try. It's like, yeah, I'm trying. Don't worry, I'm trying. Fourth phrase, kaden. So this goes along with shoots, because it's like kaden, shoots. Now the equivalent of that would be okay then, like yes, I understand, sounds good, but kaden, shoots. Yeah, so those two go together. Trying to work on that one. And the last phrase, a classic, the kind. Now, nothing wrong with saying the kind, and you could probably have a whole dissertation on what that means and the importance of that phrase here in Hawaii. I guess you could describe it as a pronoun if you want to get technical. It's a pronoun that covers all things, and yet the person who says it knows what that means, and the person who's hearing that also knows what that means. So it's kind of an implied pronoun, which again is never really great for good communication, but it's one that we kind of understand. So if I say, for example, try pass me the kind. See, saying try again. But try pass me the kind, right? So that means please pass me that. And when you say the kind, you know the other person knows what you're talking about, and they know what you're talking about, so they'll just go ahead and do that. But as you can imagine, this might cause a communication problem, because if they don't know what you're talking about, they will not understand what you're saying and they won't be able to do what you're requesting. And of course with my wife, doesn't work because, as you know, communication so important. Oh, there's ants. Oh gosh, there's ants. Oh no. Sun's doing really awesome. Thanks, bud, for joining me. So to close, I just want to say Pidgin is unique. It's a very special language and one that I appreciated when I was away, and maybe not as much as when I live in Hawaii now, but it's still a part of our culture, one that I know that I'm a little passing on to my son here and there, and I'm sure my other son will pick up words like pow and, you know, those types of words, which if you don't know, pow means done, like finished. And as I think about the ways that Hawaii is starting to change or has been changing over the years, language is one of those things that's really important. I know they talk about Hawaiian language and making sure that that gets carried on. I also think it's important that we pass along Pidgin English here, Hawaiian Creole here, because it connects us not only to each other but also to the past. It's a form of communication that is very special here in Hawaii because it shows that you grew up here, you spent a significant amount of time here, that you kind of get what's going on. And like I said, if you ever move away from Hawaii or you're visiting somewhere else and you connect with someone from Hawaii and the two of you are just talking and the Pidgin comes out, it feels really, really great. And you can only experience that if you use and understand Pidgin and all of its nuances. So thanks for watching and aloha.